guest will be Bill Becker, the cyber sleuth. Good evening, Bill. How are you tonight?
Good, John. How are you?
Good. I'm very well. How are you getting along with the snow? Did you do a lot of shoveling?
A little bit. And just like this much felt like 2 tons with the wet, heavy snow.
Yeah, it was wet and heavy, and my back is suffering from it, so I'm still in a little pain from all of that snow lifting that I did. Bill, I got a quick question for you. How did you get into information security and open source intelligence?
In a very roundabout way. It's a very interesting field, and I actually started out with, I have an undergrad in psych, and...
Wait a minute. You have an undergraduate degree in psychology?
Yes.
And how does that apply to informational security?
A lot. And from there, I moved into banking, and this was kind of during the time of the housing market crisis. And during my time at the bank, I started to become interested in things like, fraud and like how to detect it and like how it works, so that I can better educate the customers coming in, because they'd always come in with like checks like, hey, somebody knows I have a rental property and they gave me a check for too much and they want me to deposit it and wire the remains to this account, and that's a scam. So
yes, it is.
We have to understand that. So I became fascinated with that, and then of course like everything imploded, and that led me to eventually making my way to get another degree in management information systems. And from there, I kind of cut my teeth in the information security world, and that's where I kind of like got the true like vibe of what's actually going on. I wanted to get into penetration testing, and the firm I ended up working with, that was their bread and butter. So where does psychology come in? It comes in when we launched like phishing campaigns, whether it's me pretending to be the IT person sending you an email and asking you for your passwords, or figuring out who to target to see who would respond to their training well enough. So that kind of gauges the client to understand, okay, maybe we don't have a cybersecurity awareness program in place. We need to start training our employees, or we just launched our training program, and now we know that we have more education to go along, and to see if we can tighten things down. And my role beyond the social engineering aspect of it was to figure out like what our clients' like infrastructure looks like from the outside world. Like, what does their public-facing websites look like?
Yeah, so in other words, it was the viewpoint from your peering in from the outside.
Right. And I'm mapping out like issues like that I see, and then that information would be passed along to the team. And then beyond that, it's what else is happening in the outside world. Like, is there a company that is operating in a certain geographic area, and is there somebody that is targeting those types of industries, so that they have an idea like, okay, we need to be prepared to defend against this particular adversary. So that's how I got into the open source intelligence world and information security.
I got to ask you one more question, though.
Sure.
Going back, since you had a degree in psychology, were you able, while you were working in the bank, if somebody were to come into the bank, and could you be able to detect through their behavior that they were perpetrating some type of scam? Was there any tells that you could reveal?
Fortunately for the branches that I was in, very affluent people coming in, but they would always have like these checks that somebody would give them because of like a rental property that was overpaying. I had somebody come in, little old lady, and somebody had claimed that it was Webster Bank on the other end of the phone, asking her to all this information. So she came to me and was like, what is this? And I think, like, we will never, contact you for this kind of information. And that's when it like clicked with her, and she's like, that's not right. And obviously it is not right.
Let me ask you, all right, well, I'll put those psychology questions on the back burner for now. Can you give us a definition of what is informational security and open source intelligence, just so the viewers know what we're talking about? How would you define those two terms?
Sure. So you probably heard of like cybersecurity. That deals with the digital aspect of things. Information security like encompasses like everything, like digital and physical security for like protecting like actual documents, and governance and policy and risk and the whole shebang. So that having that broad scope and putting things in place, you are doing your best to protect your organization. With something like open source intelligence, that's taking information in the public domain and then analyzing what you find and then using that for whatever the purpose is.
Would that be something similar to like a mailing list or something like that? You use that to recruit new customers?
Yes and no. So different types of like open source intelligence or OSINT, that's any like public facing website, news, public databases, government databases like licensing and property records, taxes, tax information like payment information, maps, social media is included, so that's social media intelligence. Maps would be considered like GeoInt or geospatial intelligence, like what does the physical environment look like? So there's a whole lot of stuff.
So it seems like it encompasses almost everything.
Yeah.
Okay. What made you want to get into this field and why?
So during the end of the, well, let's start around like 2006 or so. I wanted to start up a website that was more like a social media platform for independent artists, so musicians, filmmakers, anybody who has an artistic outlet, as a way to like not only share their work but hopefully to collaborate. So it's a way to do that. And at one point, some members kept getting spammed over and over and over again. And I was at this point in my life not very super technical at all, and I had to rely on my webmaster, like, why does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? So eventually, when the housing market crisis like hit, I was like, well, what do I do next? And my webmaster said, if you're interested in understanding things like how spam works and all that kind of stuff, I'll introduce you to this professor at one of the state universities. And so that started my journey. They brought me into a lecture that they had a guest lecturer talking about operations security, and I was like, what? And at the same time, I've discovered Kevin Mitnick, and he was the kind of like the progenitor of modern day social engineering. His book, like Art of Intrusion and Art of Persuasion, laid out ways people might use social engineering to like get out of like speeding tickets or and that clicked with me with, oh my God, this is like all psychology. This is human behavior. And it's probably the easiest way in for a threat actor to, when they're targeting a company, is that email, that phone call, that quick text message telling you, hey, I need you to give me this information, or there's some emergency came up, here's a link that you need to click to install this update or something like that. And that's how you get owned, how like ransomware gets installed, or it's one of the easiest gateways into an organization's networks or buildings.
That's an interesting thing because there was a study done some time ago. I can't remember what the name of it was, but what they did was they found out that more people were willing to give information if someone were to ask them for it. And until you told people, hey, don't do that, normally if somebody were to ask them, could you give me some of this information, or could you give me this website or phone number or whatever this information was, people were just willing to give it to them just arbitrarily because they figured they were being accommodating to that person. I mean, is that a facet of just psychology? People want to be cooperative?
Yeah. So one of the ploys that somebody can use is, we can call it the hapless or the helpless employee, where somebody emails somebody at a company and they'll say, hey, I'm working on a project for so-and-so, and they told me if I don't get this done by such and such a time, I might lose my job. And that kind of will tug on somebody's heartstrings because they want to be helpful. They want to see you succeed, and they might be very forthcoming with that information, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think a lot of employees probably were fired because of that too, because they're giving away information that is secure information, and probably led to their termination.
It happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've heard of it happening, to be honest with you. What is the Connecticut Data Privacy Act, and why should people know about that? I keep hearing a lot of people speak about that.
So just to be clear, I'm not an attorney. I can't talk about the legal stuff, but it is a law that was passed, I think, 2023, giving Connecticut residents certain rights regarding their privacy. So the right to correct your information that a company has about you, or the right to delete it, and you have X amount of days to, once you file a request, the company has, I believe, don't quote me on it, like 45 days to respond if they're going to honor your request. And if they need more time, they have to respond to you saying, hey, the 45 days has come, but we need more time to fulfill your request. And if your request is rejected, they have to provide you, I believe, a reason why and an avenue to appeal that request.
All right, let's say, for instance, all right, this may be out of your scope, but I mean, if I called some organization and said, I want you to remove this information from your files, if they don't do it, is there any ramifications to that?
With the Attorney General has the leverage to, for any violations, to look into it, and I believe it's $5,000 fine per violation. I don't know if that's per record, so if somebody
so
has
there's 100 records, that's 5,000 times 100?
Yeah.
Well, that's a nice chunk of change.
That's my interpretation. I could be completely wrong. So I would ask that you go to the Attorney General's site and look at how they break down. They have an FAQ about various components of the Connecticut Data Privacy Act. But on the more information security side, it's making sure that organizations that are required to comply with the law, that they are putting various controls, policies, and plans in place to reduce the risk and likelihood of somebody stealing customer data.
I noticed one thing I get is, I get a lot of spammers emailing me, and I would say to them, take me off your distribution list or email list, and maybe they take me off for about a week, and then next week it's the same people, emailing me again with the same information.
Getting that too.
Yeah, it gets a little redundant telling them, look, please take me off your email list or stop sending me these emails. But I guess, I think for a while they did have a fine. If you did tell them and then they did call you back within a 6-month time frame, there was a $500 fine for that. I don't know if that's still in existence, but.
Somebody told me about, I don't know, it has to do with the marketing lists. I don't know the name of the act itself, but the fines are steep for a company that's caught abusing it. And the person who told me a story that he knew of an attorney who was able to fund an annual trip around the world just based off of that. And this attorney had like hundreds and hundreds of phones and would wait for the calls to come in so that they can file a suit for violating
The do not call list.
whatever the regulation is, and that just like blew my mind.
Well, I mean, I think maybe from the vendor's perspective, it's probably a lot of work to take people off, and you're sending out so many correspondence. It may be difficult to manage them all, or take you time to do it, or maybe there's just a little bit of neglect there as well. But you know, it seems like it is a nuisance to everybody. What is a cybersecurity framework?
So a framework is a list of controls, and they're broken down by, for example, NIST is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and they have their own cybersecurity framework, and they updated it last year or the year before to include a new category called governance, where what governance means is the burden of protecting an organization isn't solely the IT team and the security team to take care of everything. It's everybody. It's kind of like an all hands on deck.
Everybody shares in the responsibility.
Yeah, so that they're doing the right thing by making sure that they're compliant with, if they're required to be compliant with the law. So you have things like governance. You have things controls to, we'll call them technical controls. That could be like firewalls, anti-malware, or endpoint detection and response endpoint stuff, vulnerability scanning. You have administrative controls. This could be things like creating inventories of software and hardware. It could be administering cybersecurity awareness training, so more like modular, like going through like a self-paced course to make sure everybody gets a passing score, and so there's that. And then physical controls. So do you have proper physical access to doors? Are you logging employees in and out of rooms, or certain rooms restricted to certain people because it might contain sensitive documents or sensitive equipment? So video cameras and surveillance cameras and things of that nature. So it covers a wide range of things. So.
That's a good question. I've had this happen to me on a number of occasions. People have obtained personal information. They've been hacked from some organization that I was dealing with. I don't want to name any names to be specific, but they went in there and then, they went in there and took out some information, social security numbers, other personal information that they should not have had access to. How often does this happen? Or how does it happen?
And it happens more than I would want it to happen.
I think that if it ever happens, it's more than people want it to happen.
One time too many. The data comes from a lot of different places. It could come directly from the organization that the bad actors target. And so I guess a good example is, and I think they've gone bankrupt, they were a data broker, and for some reason, with the data that they were collecting, they managed to collect, pretty much all Americans' social security numbers, contact information, physical addresses. So it's a lot of data that's just ripe for, committing identity theft and other things. So you have like companies accidentally, collecting stuff, which how that happens, we may never know. Then you have things called like combo lists, which are used in different attacks like credential stuffing, which means that these lists contain like usernames and passwords of like all previous breaches, and then they're going to, correlate, oh, here's, Joe Schmo, and these are all the passwords that they've previously used. And then they're going to try all the accounts that they can find for Joe Schmo. And I think we got a caller.
Yeah, I think we got a caller here. Caller, you're on Tom Hill Live.
Oh, hi, guys. Great show. Could you ask the guest who's his normal customer and how or why people should go about hiring him?
Go ahead, Bill.
Sure. Normal customer, it depends on what I'm doing. If it's an organization, I like small to medium-sized businesses. Small businesses have a challenge, a couple of challenges that they have to face. It's them thinking, oh, we're a small, piece of dust on a map. Like, who care about us? But you have data. If it's not the data that you have your devices that somebody can take over and do a lot of not so good things. So there's that. I also help attorneys with their casework. So if they need me to preserve social media posts for submitting as evidence, or authenticating, is this a fake account or not? Like, this is where I kind of come into play to help figure things out. So, and then on the personal side of things, people who need help just educating themselves or their families, or like how to better protect themselves, ways to like better secure their devices, and just see what their digital footprint looks like, so that they can see if there's any privacy issues or anything that could lead to identity theft or any other problem that might be coming down the road.
Since you mentioned that, I think maybe some of the viewers would like to know if they wanted to contact you, how could they contact you, and the name of your business?
Sure. The name of the business is B Squared Intel. You can find me, the website is bsquaredintel.com. You can, on social media, from Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, at bsquaredintel. You can email me at info@bsquaredintel.com, or text or call 203-828-0012.
Okay. And if anybody currently has a question for Bill and you'd like to call in, the number is 203-753-7593. We'd be more than happy to hear from you. Let me ask you a question here. This is something I always wondered. Anybody with a user ID has to have a password. And I'm assuming that both of those pieces of information are held somewhere in a file within their computer system. Is that correct?
So in for the passwords, so people might go about storing their passwords, and I've seen people put them in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Doc, and that happens to be out in the open now. And
All right, so that's a free that you got free access to that.
Just because it's open and accessible to the public does not mean it's meant for public consumption. So don't do that. So I've seen people store that just in, on their phone, in like a note app or, Excel spreadsheet. And that's not the most secure way to go about it. The best way is to, encrypt your passwords, either using a password manager that's either cloud-based or something like KeePass, which is a localized, which you can just install on your device to store your passwords in a more secure way.
Yeah, because I notice now, it seems wherever you go on the internet, they're asking for a password, and then you don't want to use the same password on all of your different websites. Right. So I mean, it could be cumbersome to retain all of these passwords, and I can understand why people put it into a file like that, because it's it's a lot to call for on your memory.
It is, and the rule of thumb is for each account that if you want to really get like in the nitty gritty with setting up an account, is a unique password for each account that you have, and a unique username for each account that you have. So if I know that somebody is, username is jdo01 or something like that, then I can figure out like where all their account, like here's all their accounts. And if jdo01 uses the same password, then somebody can just go along and just pop open each account, and that's
That's
Go ahead.
hazardous. Well, I was reading an article and they were talking about passwords, and they said one of the most popular passwords was 12345.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not going too deep in the password book, I would think.
Oh, it's better than that. I've come across appliances available online, or exposed online, or even just reading about things in general where there is no username or password for the portal. It's just boom, you're in.
Free access.
Free access. There are lists that are created that have like the default usernames and passwords for this stuff. And the rule of thumb is if you're setting up like either hardware or some application that requires a username and password, if there is a default username and password, change it. If it doesn't force you to change it, make that as part of your process to, like, before you finish the thing, setting up the thing, to change the username and password, because that's not the most secure way to go about just leaving it as a default setting.
Usually if it has secure information, I found that they usually make you change your password every 3 months or 6 months. It seems like to be standard. Your password is expired. Please, issue a new, password. And I guess they're trying to not get too many passwords integrated across too many applications, so it's easier to, figure out what, gain access to this people's information.
Right. And the National Institute of Standards and Technology, I believe they finally finalized their digital identity guidance, and the typical like 30, 60, or 90 day password reset actually they found to cause more issues, because people, when it's time for them to reset their password, it might be, and don't ever use a password like this, like password 01, and then the next time they have to reset it, it's password 02, password 03, and so on and so forth, which means if somebody can figure out what that pattern is, they're going to know the next time it's changed. So there might I'm not going to recommend that companies outright stick to not having your employees change your passwords until it's needed. Like, there might be some news about an incident that like, oh no, we have this application, so change your password. I don't know what the insurance requirements might be for that organization. The insurance company might say you need to stick to 30, 60, or 90 days. So I would, if you have a legal team, talk to your legal team, talk with your insurance provider to understand like what they want from you as far as the frequency of changing your passwords.
Let me ask you this. What challenges do small businesses have with information security?
So I've noticed like small businesses and those that are starting up, they might not have the guidance to understand like what's kind of ahead of them. And again, as I mentioned, there's the mindset of, I'm just a small business. Like, why would somebody want to target me? So that's we have to change that mindset. And also, maybe you start your business and you believe it's going to go in one direction, and you're saying to yourself, I'm never going to be collecting data I have to protect from my clients. But maybe there's an opportunity that comes down the road, and now you're collecting data that you have to protect. So by kind of thinking down the road, like what things can look like, just putting things in place over time that can help you with, getting cybersecurity, cyber liability insurance, or kind of anticipating any sort of data privacy laws that you might have to encounter. The other thing might be your business might be suitable as a subcontractor for a larger business, and that larger business might have to comply with the Connecticut Data Privacy Act or HIPAA or any DoD requirements. So that means that you now have to be compliant because you're going to be processing that data. So just kind of having some foresight, like, oh, this might happen to me, let's be proactive about it. Being proactive about things is less costly than not being proactive about things.
Yeah, if you're reactive, it is more expensive. I'll agree with you there. Here's a term I hear. Oh, we got another caller. You're on Tom Hill Live. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Uh-oh.
All right. I forgot where we're going here. What was I saying to you?
Small businesses, what challenges do they face?
Yeah, I noticed a lot of times I've seen small businesses, they'll say that they couldn't afford any cybersecurity because of the cost. I mean, some of them were complaining they cost you up to maybe $7,000 a year. Is that a standard price, or was that a high price on cybersecurity?
It depends on what they're needing. Like, it can get, I think we got a caller.
I thought so. Here we go. Caller, you're on Tom Hill Live.
Oh, hi. Tom Hill here. Sorry I couldn't make it, guys, tonight. Shut my phone off, sorry.
And I hope you will support us by donating to our fund.
I sound like one of those stupid callers
No, not you, Tom.
with their phone making all kinds of interesting thing. Bill, just listening to you about your answering the questions of people, what people might be able to look for in the future. I don't think people with a new business have any idea about any of this, and I think you ought to be offering, I suggest, you ought to be offering a service to go in and help people anticipate, because everything you're talking about, anticipating, I would have never thought of any of those.
Yeah, I prefer helping those that want to be proactive. So I do help with consulting for startups, or if somebody is trying to figure out, like, trying to make heads or tails of different frameworks that they need help with. And my core competency is external risk and threat assessments, which may fall into the compliance that they're required to follow.
I think you're way over the audience's head. Even that thing you just said, external risk compliance. I don't even know what that is. I think you got to really simplify it, unless you already know who your target audience
Sure.
is, and it's not the general public, because you know your stuff, but you're over my head, for sure. And then I'd like to switch back the conversation a little bit, because I met you through John Frasco, and thank you for sitting in, John. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you, Tom.
I met both of you through networking. I'd like to just talk a little bit about, because people know you know your stuff, at least I think, and I think you'll get the business from people that need your expertise. Give me some experience from both of you of your networking tactics. John, I know you're part of the Waterbury Regional Chamber, and I've met you in various places. Maybe you could both share with the audience some of your networking strategies, as I think that would be helpful to people that want to go out and get new business, just like, Bill, you're on our show tonight trying to get some business, or at least offering your services.
Sure. I am part of the Waterbury Regional Chamber. So as far as networking goes, it's a great opportunity to meet people and understand, like, their businesses, so that maybe down the road they know somebody who goes, oh, I need somebody like John or Tom or Bill, and it's getting that that opportunity to have a one-to-one conversation with them. That's kind of where, like, the magic happens, where you can get into the deeper deeper conversations to have a more authentic connection with with that person so that you can go, oh, I want to help John with his business, and John would, with who he's meeting, he would want to make sure that he helps that person.
John, how about you? You're an active networker. You're really, really good at it. How about some of the different networking type things that you do, and how you convert that to business?
Well, I am a member of the Waterbury Chamber of Commerce. Gone to a lot of events there, but I found that very helpful. I also do a lot on social media. I post information, post videos. I also have an email campaign that I sent out about 600 emails each day, including Saturday and Sunday. I'm on LinkedIn. I sent out videos and information through LinkedIn. I got into groups. There's about 75 groups in LinkedIn that I send information to on a consistent basis. There's about 56 groups in Facebook that I send out information on a consistent basis. So I've touched base with many people through those social media avenues. I've also have a networking group that we have meetings once a month at different locations. Most of the time at a restaurant or maybe at a bar. We get a drink, we get something to eat, you get to network with people one-to-one. I also used to do breakfasts with Tom Hill in the morning from time to time in Waterbury. Those were very entertaining and interesting people that we would meet together. Tom, can you tell us what you do for networking?
Everything you do and more. But I think what the audience might like to know from the two of you is, how do you convert this networking into real business? These leads, as Bill was saying, talking to somebody on 101, one-on-one. How do you convert that, whether it's a referral that they give you or from them, and determine the person you're talking to really want? How do you convert that to a signed agreement to do your business with people?
I think for me, I want to make sure that who I'm talking to understands like what I provide, and like trust is big for me. So I want to make sure that not only can they trust me, but I can help. Because they might have somebody that might need their help, so they want to make sure that Bill is trustworthy. He can help you out with your needs. So it's that way that I've found like helping helping my clients. That's how how it's happened. So And
to take that a bit further, how do you work your deal that they'll pay you, or how do you present people? I find that for me all the time, every day, people are asking me for my services for free. It may be because real estate people always gave some free or a lot free, hoping to get some business. But I don't have time for that. So I'd like to hear about both of you on how you convert to actually getting the business and qualify the customer, and maybe what's your strategy for asking for the deposit so you're not spinning your wheels.
So for me, it might start with a small offering, something that they can test the waters, and I get paid, and then that offering might reveal more things that that client isn't aware of, like, hey, there happens to be a gaping hole in your website. So that then leads to another conversation. Or if I'm connecting with an attorney, it just might be the magic words like, hey, I'm able to find this, and they might not have that skill set to do so, or and that's how they go, oh, this makes sense, because people have a digital footprint and things are happening on social media, on websites, that could become evidence. So that's very helpful.
You're lucky. If you have an attorney clientele, they can typically afford to pay their bills. I know one of my problems, and I want to switch to you in a second, John. I have people asking me all the time, and to use your words, Bill, when I start talking to them and we each reveal what our realities are, I'm probably not going forward because they can't afford to use my services. So, John, how do you convert the business and then qualify your customers that, because you have to have a success to have a fee, I would imagine, to some degree, in your financing business and helping people borrow money, correct?
Yeah, you're correct on that. Usually what I do is I like to give out a lot of information, of financial information on commercial loans, how to improve your credit score, things of that nature. And people will contact me and ask for some additional information. When I tell them what I do, that I'm into commercial lending and I know how to get them a loan if they've been refused from an institutional lender, I sort of establish a little rapport with them. In many cases, when I've given people information, they've also given me referrals. So I get referrals from people that have used the information and have contacted me about it. Usually I don't get a fee for that because when they do get a commercial loan, the fee is paid for by the lender. So it's at no cost to the people getting the loan. So I
You
usually
still have to qualify people to make sure that they're creditworthy, because people who have been refused loans, isn't it a little harder to get them more money? But I would imagine you have a skill set and a book of business that allows you to be successful with obtaining money for a certain percentage of the people that present themselves to you asking for your help.
Yes, I usually do a preliminary qualification. I ask certain key financial information, and from what they send me, I could determine if they're going to be able to get a loan or not. Every lender has parameters, and if you're below the parameters, they do not grant you a loan. So it's some of the times people that are looking for money have waited too long. Their financial cash flow is very poor. Maybe their credit rating got worse because they can't pay their bills. Now it's tougher to get the loan, and they'll fall behind or below most lenders' parameters. So it's easy to determine people in that situation that they won't get a loan. I often tell them, I'd rather tell them up front that they're below parameters, because some lenders do charge application fees and other fees associated with that. If you're not capable of getting the loan, I don't want to have them pay those fees. I'd rather be honest and upfront with them and say, look, you're going to fall below what the parameters are to get a loan. So,
Yeah, if you don't give people value or you make them pay money for something that's not helping them, you're dead meat.
yeah, it's hurting my reputation. It's not serving them. I mean, I always try to add value to everyone, all my clients. Even if they don't want to use me, I try to give them something that they could say, at least you provided some type of value.
Yeah, and we don't mind spending 10, 15, 20 minutes with somebody to show them, try to show them a route to where they're going. But, everybody has to work and make a look. And everybody has to make the buyer, the seller, everybody has to get something out of it. So you want to leave a good taste in people's mouth, but you also don't want to spend hours and hours and hours. You won't stay in business that way. And Bill, do you have a set of qualifying questions when you have a new client to make sure that they're going to be a right fit, including being able to pay your service?
I need to understand if they need to follow any laws or regulations for data privacy. I need to understand the scope of their business. From maybe the technical infrastructure. I need to understand any certain issues that they might be experiencing. It could be people impersonating their website or social media profiles. I need to understand what their goals are, because I'm custom from start to finish. So I want to be able to deliver for them. I don't want to just run off on my own and find information that they might not want or need. So it's
I get it. You're a tactician, a surgeon, so you need a special customer, again, like all of us, that we can they can get their value and we can get our pay or our fee. John, and what the point I'd like to make to the audience is, and thank you, John, for doing this. John's our announcer, he's a producer, and now he's a substitute host and doing a darn nice job. But what we're trying to offer is, teach the audience stuff that they can really use. And if you look back on the 10 or 12 shows John and I have done and our podcast on TomHillRadio.com, we're trying to teach people which way, things you can learn. And this might be a great time, John, to maybe tell the audience something about your lineup, because you've been booking the show and you're doing a heck of a job at that. Maybe you want to, and if this isn't the right time, you can do it during the rest of your show. You could can me if I'm on a line, or hang up, click, you're done, Tom. But with
No, we can't hang up on you, Tom.
Maybe your lineup of what you've booked and who we're going to be talking to, experts like Bill, who's your guest tonight.
Yeah, I was going to do that at the end of the show. I was going to wait till the last minute.
No. You should tempt them now.
All right, as soon as I'm done with you, Tom, I'll give everybody an update on who's coming.
Thank you very much. You're doing a great job. It's a good show. And Bill, thank you for appearing on Tom Hill Live.
And thank you, Tom, for the opportunity.
Bye.
Have a good night, Tom. All right. Well, according to Tom's request, we'll go over the schedule for the next couple of weeks here. On March 5th, we're going to have Laura Brown from Laura B. Travel. She will tell you, she makes social media reels. It ought to be very interesting. On March 12th, we're going to have Ewa from Ann's Place. He talks about assistance. They provide services to families of people that have cancer. This ought to be a very interesting show as well. On March 19th, we've got Beth Lane from Booked and Balanced. She's a bookkeeper for a good number of years, very talented. I'm sure if you have a business, she could give you some insight on how to improve your financial statements and maybe even save you some tax dollars. On March 26th, we have Bob LeBon from LeBon's Market. He's got 4 different supermarkets in the Connecticut area. He should be an interesting person to talk to. And on April 2nd, we're going to have a repeat performance from Don Smith, the speech tamer. He's always an interesting guy, and he's very adept at communication. So that's it so far. We're waiting for somebody for April 9th. And I hope Tom is happy with that because that takes care of a good number of people. Let's get back to the questions here. I think we were talking about the challenges to small business. Let me ask you this. What is phishing and social media engineering?
So social engineering is like the overarching component to things like phishing. Social engineering in like a benign sense is framing somebody's reality to get them to achieve a goal that you've predetermined. So maybe it's a kid that wants a cookie or to stay up late, and they might get their way because they know they start pushing their parents' buttons until maybe they cave, and if they cave, they know that they've succeeded. So that's kind of social engineering in a benign way. In a malicious way, it's a bad actor who is looking for 2 optimal outcomes. It's one, to get you to give up sensitive info like usernames, passwords, financial information. For businesses, it could be proprietary data, or to gain physical access to an office or building. And then the second optimal outcome is to get you to behave in a way that's out of character for you. It could be clicking that link, scanning that QR code that you get in an email, entering a command into a command prompt, or maybe you are the one that's opening up the door to let them in the office to places where they shouldn't be. So with phishing, it's the use of email, text, phone calls, social media. I've seen happen over like Google Calendar invites, where somebody is trying to establish trust with you over some form of electronic communication, and that's where the trouble starts. It might be a link or an attachment that they put in the text or email. It could just be starting with the normal conversation, and then the deeper you get, they start asking innocuous stuff that you might think, that's it makes no difference to me if I share this information.
It's harmless, yeah.
But the more and more and more innocuous stuff that you provide, it starts to add up. And that's when the bad actor might go, oh, I have this information now. I might be able to do X, Y, or Z.
Let me ask you a question. I've been getting a phone call, and they're saying that my Google account has problems. Press 7. And I never press 7. I usually hang up on that because I figure this is some type of scam here. Mm-hmm. Do you have any insight on what's going on there?
Not really, other than that's probably not Google.
No, I know it's not Google. I know that for sure. That's one thing I'm positive of.
If it's the phone number that's being used, is probably some burner number that is being used overseas.
Okay. It's best to stay away from that. Don't do what they say if you're not familiar with who they are, I would say.
Always call and verify. And if you get contact information, from, say, PayPal or your bank, don't use that contact information and don't log in with any links there. Go directly to the known website. So if it's PayPal, go to paypal.com. If it's your bank, even if you're able to, go and visit the branch. Be like, hey, got this weird.
Yeah, I heard
message.
about sometimes if you get an email and says there's a problem with your bank account, they have another web page that emulates whatever your bank is, but it's not the actual
Right.
web page. So it's always best to, if you do have a bank or some financial institution, don't use an email link. Use your own, the link that you know or used before
Right,
prior,
right.
and then inquire if this is actually a legitimate inquiry.
Yep.
All right. What is website social media forensics? It sounds like a medical term.
So when I'm doing more on the forensic side of stuff, the first step is being able to preserve that data in case something happens. Maybe the hosting, the web host goes under, and that might not exist. There are web archival sites like the Wayback Machine that while they do archive the sites, it's not the actual website that you're looking at, and it might be missing certain information that if it's submitted as evidence in the court, it doesn't withstand scrutiny, so that could be dismissed. So you want to make sure that things are properly preserved, and then it's picking things apart. Like, can you figure out what the IP address is tied to? Potentially who owns that website or who owns that social media account, and then it's verifying that information and then starting to collect information pertaining to that particular case.
How far back can you go? Is there a number of years? Is there a limiting factor on number of years historically that you can go, or is it infinite?
So for a lot of the cases, I do have a finite date, and that's usually the date of the incident to present, unless they give me instructions to go beyond. So, for example, if I'm helping out a personal injury attorney, I'm going back as far as like the incident to make sure that to see if there's anything that my client's client is doing that is counter to their claim. So my client doesn't want to find their client, who has a broken leg or something of that effect, and I find like a video of them, helping their friend move like 2 weeks after like the incident. That would be that can derail the case. So, but I can only go back as far as the client instructs me to go.
Okay, but for retrieving the data,
Mm-hmm.
is there a limit? Is it ever truncated after a certain amount of years?
With
Or is the historical record going to be there for infinity?
so with like Facebook and other Meta properties, you can scroll for years and years and years, however long that person had that account. But if a company goes under, there's something known as link rot. And with link rot, you might lose information. So everything is not always permanent. We're always losing some sort of information along the way. So if a company buys out another company, that link that you might be relying on for some sort of information, that can be no longer available because that new company doesn't want any other sort of digital assets that.
Yeah, I would imagine storage becomes an issue at some point, isn't it?
It does. Interestingly enough, Microsoft has a project called Project Silica, where they've actually found a way to laser engrave data on glass that you would find like in a cooktop stove.
Okay.
And that data can be retained theoretically for 10,000 years.
Or until somebody drops it.
Right. But the average lifespan of like a solid hard disk drive could be, if it's used heavily, maybe a couple years. Solid state drives they don't last forever too. Like you're going to get several years out of it, but at some point those drives will start failing.
Yeah, there's always a limited life on
Yeah.
any mechanical device.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you see more businesses retaining their information on their own computers or servers, or do you see them pushing more of it up into the cloud?
There's like a lot of things are, being pushed to the cloud. There are some people that are clawing back with cloud, with their cloud spendage for on-premise solutions. So like they have like their servers hosted like on-site kind of thing. I think it depends on what that individual that organization's needs are. But for us consumers, we are engaging with a lot of cloud-based services, and that has its own problems.
Is putting the information on the cloud more of a danger, or is it more secure?
You're basically putting your information on somebody else's computer. And there have been misconfigurations that allow people to just steal data because it's just wide open to the internet. You have outages, so Amazon has had outages, Meta has had outages, Cloudflare. These are all companies that are kind of like acting as like a backbone for the internet. And when that goes down, like it affects organizations. You can't access certain data. So it's...
Okay. Why don't you give the viewers your information again, your business information, on how they can contact you?
Sure. Email info@bsquaredintel.com. Phone number 203-828-0012. Website bsquaredintel.com. With social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Blue Sky @bsquaredintel. And that's me.
Yeah, Bill's very capable here. I think if you need some assistance with anything concerning your cyber attacks or anything like that, I'm sure he could give you plenty of good information. And I've known him for a number of years, and you've always been upfront and really stand-up kind of guy.
Thank you, John.
I like to be around quality people,
Thank you.
Okay, I guess the show is about over, so this is John Frasco signing out. Bill Becker. Enjoy your evening.